Yo, what's going on? It's Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, tbkc, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Now, check it out, man. This video is about some dogs that I really like, love. The combination was so much better, and that's Roc and Ruby. Now, this is like the ultimate, and when you stack a pedigree and it just keeps on producing and producing and producing and producing. And let me not mess this up, but the Roc was a Cairo son, you know, the legendary Cairo, and I think it was bred to a Monster G daughter is what made the Roc. And Ruby was a short shot bred to a Glory Boy koala daughter. So as you see, this pedigree was just absolutely loaded. And I got a chance to see both dogs out in Cali. The Roc was a very massive dog. They would say they list his weight at, he was like 110 pounds or whatever. He looked bigger than that, a lot bigger than that. So I think they was lying. But he was a massive dog, man. Massive dog, massive head. Good looking dog, you know. Whereas Ruby was a little smaller, but she had what we would call the typical edge look, man. I mean, just in the face, nice chest, very good conformation. She was a very good dog. So, you know, you had genotype and phenotype rolling on that breeding. And it was a very good breeding, but the results, you know, just starting off with Tonka and, man, when I seen Tonka, I was like, okay, here we go. Because Tonka was another one of those 100-pound dogs, wide. I mean, and y'all know me, I'm an aesthetics and conformation guy. And to see this big, massive-ass dog and to see him move and to see him out there all around, it was just an incredible dog. Of course, the dogs are not perfect. So, you know, some people with Tonka would say that his eyes were more circular or whatever, however that goes. But, you know, seeing him in person, the pictures really didn't do the dog justice. His muscle tone, his overall size. It's funny, they always seem to post the ugliest pictures of the dog, because when I tell you this dog was incredible, he was incredible. And, you know, the Double S squad, man, they just did breeding after breeding. And I mean, that the blood carried over. You know, you could breed the dog to a Roc and it would make incredible puppies, you know. And and then, you know, after seeing Rockzilla, it was just like, you know, those two were those two were the staple of the Roc and Ruby Blood strand. But one of the things that not to shortchange the Rockzilla, another massive, beautiful dog. He had everything, just like his brother. You know, a lot of people like Rockzilla's look a little bit more because he seemed to be a little more dense. But Rockzilla, man, he was another one. You could breed him to a frog and you'd have some nice bully frogs. The dog was incredible. But I think one of the most incredible things about this strand of blood in the Edge family was it's almost like the universal blood. And I think it's because of the way it's put together so well. Because anything that you bred to Roc and Ruby, it seemed like it would bring out the best qualities of it. Literally, it would just bring out the best qualities, anything you bred it to. If you wanted to make pockets out of Roc and Ruby Blood, which this was definitely not a pocket blood, these were big dogs. But for some reason, it would make incredible, nice, short, big muscle, big bone, you know, pockets a lot of times. Now, it didn't always work, but when it did, it was magical. I think Squirt was one of those dogs, you know. And then when you bred it to the bigger dogs, and y'all just check the pedigree, I'm not going to keep on going down, you know, a million times, but when you see Tonka and Rockzilla, you'll see that there are a lot of great dogs that have these dogs in their pedigree, and it was just a universal blood. It's a blood right now that I would just love to get my hands on if somebody had some of the more earlier stuff bred either back to some Cairo or short shot blood, because that would keep it pretty much the most simplistic out of it. But the dogs, you know, it's funny, you know, we talk about Roc and Ruby as a strand of blood, but the impact of Roc and Ruby Blood is more substance than advertising. Now, when you start talking about, say, for instance, Paco is actually bred very similar to the way that Roc and Ruby is. You know, you have the short shot blood, you have the Cairo blood. pushed down a little bit. But the thing of it is that, you know, Paco was more marketed, you know, Remy was more marketed, whereas these dogs, you know, continuously over and over and over again, they were just substance dogs. If you got a hold of Roc and Ruby Blood, man, and y'all look throughout of this, because a lot of y'all have messaged me like, what is Roc and Ruby Blood? The reason why it's not heralded like Paco, well, to the real dog men it is, but you know, it wasn't marketed like that. You know, these was just some badass dogs that made their whole name off of being studs, you know, and it constantly produced. And the one thing, you know, if you start talking about you know, what did they give, the one thing that Roc and Ruby was always going to give you was consistency. Now, the thing I would say is, for me personally, and this is just a personal aspect of where I would go with it, because of what they were originally, I like to breed them more standard. You know, I would love to get my hands on some of that blood right now and just breed it, you know, to a bigger dog. Even like a dog like Mandela, who's pushing the line of standard, even though he's pocket, I would love to get my hands and breed it on that, because it's always going to it's always going to magnify the best qualities of what you're trying to do. You know, those who have tried to do it in a pocket strand, they've had a lot more work to do, because it naturally wasn't a pocket blood. When it, like I say, when it clicked, you got some little monsters. But the thing of it is that it was just a natural, beautiful standard blood, man. You can make anything out of this. You could put Remy to it, check it, great results. You know what I mean? Of course, putting Paco to it, line breeding, now you could do that. It was some Gotti dogs that went to it, and then maybe that was pulling on the Monster G behind it. Great results. Always big bone, always very bully, nice big chest. I mean, in many ways, I would say that combination of blood and what they continue to do with it in the Edge family is not only just the universal blood, but the Roc and Ruby strand, you know. And it's hard for me to say this because it's sort of the same, like I told you, has the same level of consistency. It's probably Paco's blood. You know, it just did the same. It's for y'all who are more familiar with Paco's blood, it did the same thing over and over and over again. I think the biggest difference with Paco's blood is Paco's blood was more bred to be pocket because of Little Row, as to where, you know, coming through by the way of a giant like the Roc and Ruby strand was bred more to be big, like the dogs that are behind it. Monster G was a big dog. Even Glory Boy wasn't a small dog at all. We all know Cairo was 110 to 115 pound dog. Short Shot was not a small baby, that was a big dog. So, you know, Buckshot was a very big dog. So, you know, going that way, I think that this was the Roc and Ruby blood, for me to sort of sum it up, was the equivalent of what Paco's blood was, just the big version of it. Whereas Paco's blood was sort of bred to be down there. But the thing about them is they reacted a lot the same way. No matter what you breed Paco to, I'm gonna tell you this for a fact, I have not seen Paco's blood fail at any level. If you look at a dog like Victorious, it's a bigger version of the Paco blood. If you look at all of the pockets, you know, even like some of my dogs like Denzel, you know, when we infused the Paco blood in there, it made great pockets. This was what Roc and Ruby could do, but the reverse way. Whereas Roc and Ruby has some very nice pocket dogs in the family, and then, like I said, you got Rockzilla and you got Tonka, and a gang of other dogs with the Roc and Ruby strand of blood in there. And no matter what you bred it to, it would hold consistent, it would hold its structure, it would hold its bulliness. It was just a complete blood. If you are truly an edge breeder and you're on the search, that Roc and Ruby blood is every bit as valuable as the Paco blood. Every bit as valuable. You get you some of that Roc and Ruby stuff, and it's still line breeding, but you run that to some of your Remy blood and different things like that, it's on the record. There's some great dogs with those combinations. I mean, I would love to see it with some of the old Gotti again, but a lot of the old Gotti is extinct now. But it just didn't matter. And I'm rambling on at this point in time, but I'm telling you, if you ever had a chance to get a hold of Roc and Ruby blood, this is truly a foundation blood in the American bully world. It deserves the same respect that all of that the Paco blood deserves, that the Remy blood deserves, that the true Gotti line blood deserves. This strand of blood did massive things for a lot of kennels, you know, and because of the style changes in the dogs over the years, it has gotten negated as far as its popularity and credibility to younger breeders, because they don't know anything about it. But this blood will complete your yard, and when I tell you it can go with anything, believe me, do your research, look around. It's a bunch of examples of the blood going different ways, and it just always works. And not every blood does that. It just always works. So man, shout out, you know what I mean, Clyde Pooh. I was excited to even talk about this, and I try to make it as simplistic as possible. But man, if y'all don't know about Roc and Ruby, that's what it is. If you want size, if you want to maintain your structure and your bulliness and your health, because the Roc and Ruby dogs all live pretty good lives too, it's a must. If you can get a hold of it, there's still some old school cats out there that got it. Get your hands on it. Hey, much love, y'all. God bless y'all. Please.